Good morning, good afternoon, and warm greetings to everyone joining us from across and beyond Asia Pacific today. Welcome to today's session on the Learning Series 6, organized under the Functional Area 1 of the SDG 4 High-Level Steering Committee. My name is Sebla Kazanji, and I'm delighted to be your host for this important conversation on knowledge brokering for policy change, why it matters for SDG 4. Today's session is organized in collaboration between the Section of Education Policy Sector at UNESCO headquarters and UNESCO Regional Office in Bangkok, the UN Office for Regional Coordination Asia Pacific, within the framework of the SDG 4 Education 2030 High-Level Steering Committee Functional Area 1. Before we start, I would like to kindly remind you some technical aspects. Kindly make sure that you're signed in as first name, last name, country, or organization. This webinar is being recorded and photos will be taken during the webinar. Webinar resources will be continuously made available on the UNESCO Bangkok website as well as FA1 website. Questions are welcome through the webinar via Zoom chat box. Please be clear and concise. You can also click on the raise hand option to make interventions. Attendees will be redirected to the exit survey at the end of this webinar. Please help us by completing this short evaluation. To open today's session and give us some introduction of the learning series and functional area 1, I'm pleased to invite Sonia Guerriero, Program Specialist at Section of Education Policy at UNESCO headquarters. Over to you, Sonia.
Thank you, Sebla. Can you kindly let me know if you see my slides?
We do.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you, everyone, for this joint collaboration with the UNESCO Bangkok office. We are pleased to have this learning series number 6 in collaboration with you. Before we begin, what I wanted to do is just give you a little bit of an understanding of the context of how this learning series falls within the big picture. Oops. Okay, there we go. I hope you can continue to see my slides. So the Functional Area 1 Learning Series falls within the SDG 4 High-Level Steering Committee. The steering committee is made up of 28 members of different stakeholder groups that together work to support cooperation, harmonization of efforts at global and regional areas through 3 functional areas. The first one is the one we'll be talking about today, which is about promoting evidence-based policy formulation, planning, and implementation. The second functional area is about monitoring progress on the use and availability of data. And the third is on financing mobilization for improving SDG 4. More specifically, each of the functional area groups are made up of different members from different stakeholder groups. As you will see, the technical leads for this years of FA1 are UNESCO and OECD. We have the country Latvia and Jacobs Foundation as our Sherpas, and committee members are made up of a range of regional intergovernmental organizations, multilateral organizations and funds, civil society, as well as some observers. It's including the SDG 4 coordination mechanisms. So the purpose of the Functional Area 1, which is essentially a working group to support the institutional education authority capacities to use data and evidence for policy planning and implementation. That's the overarching objective. And we do this through 3 specific objectives. One is to strengthen country capacity in accessing locally relevant research. The second is in promoting regional cooperation and building bridges between global and country levels. And thirdly, it's to produce global public goods for advocacy and evidence-based policy. More specifically, the Functional Area 1 has a work plan, a biennial work plan with several different activities. Today, we're going to focus on number 3 on my list, which is on the learning series, which is what today's webinar is about. So the reason for this learning series is to address some broken feedback loops based on research synthesis that was conducted in 2024 for UNESCO. What this research synthesis found is that there's a broken feedback loop between the producers of research and those who need to use the research. For example, the producers of research who might be researchers or research agencies, and the users of research who need to be the policymakers. That feedback loop was broken. A second broken loop was between the global production of evidence and global initiatives and platforms and what are the local demands, country-specific local demands. So this was a broken feedback loop in the sense that they were not communicating with each other. So the idea was to begin this learning series to improve the translation of data and evidence for policy decision making through knowledge sharing and peer learning, networking and collaboration, and awareness raising. So beginning in 2024, what we did is we held 4 webinars as part of this learning series. You will note that the webinars were focused on one phase of the policy cycle. For example, how to use data for situation analysis or for policy planning, policy monitoring, and policy formulation. All of these webinars, all of the key take-homes, recordings and slides of these webinars are available on our website, and we'll share this with you after the today's webinar. One of the things we noticed after the 4 webinars that we held in 2024 was that we really needed to improve this knowledge brokering aspect, which, as you can see, is the focus of the 2025 webinars. Knowledge brokering really is a more specific part of really looking into the actual connecting of researchers and research and data and evidence with those who need to use it. And there are 3 goals to it based on a research review of the research. The one is that the research needs to be accessible, so it needs to be in a form that is translated. Second, it needs to be practical for decision making. It should not be too theoretical. And thirdly, it needs to meet the needs of the users. So based on these 3 bullet points, we would like to focus more on how this role of knowledge brokering and how to translate research into education policy and practice. The second point I wanted to make about this is we're also looking at not just data and evidence in respect to inputs and outcomes of education, but also the processes of education, in particular, the evidence of how children learn, and how this understanding of how children learn can inform the design of better curricula, pedagogies, and assessment practices. So keeping that in mind, what we decided to focus on in 2025 is how to improve the translation of this data, evidence, and scientific knowledge for education policies and practices. So having said that, we started with our 5th webinar of 2025, which was specifically looking at the science of learning for education transformation. 3 takeaways from that webinar that I thought I would share with you that came up as challenges that we need to continue to address is that there's a disconnect between what is being taught in teacher education and what the science says about how best children learn that can improve the design of curricula and pedagogies. Secondly, a challenge that is preventing that is part of this disconnect is that education systems are complex and dynamic. And so they're continually changing and moving. And there are lots of stakeholders that need to be considered in using data, evidence, and scientific knowledge for education policy and practice. And that includes the teachers, the parents, and the students. And then thirdly, we learned that there is a need for improving scientific literacy, and not just from the level of the teachers or the school directors, but also by policymakers who are the decision makers. And the policymakers have to have a better understanding of data evidence and scientific knowledge in order for them to make use of it. And that the fact that, and also that policymakers need to also themselves, through this understanding, be able to link to the researchers and the data producers so they can speak the same language. So these were three takeaways that remain challenges and that we need to continue working on. Before I end, I just want to give a little bit of what's coming up with our learning series in 2025. Our next one is on the 25th of September, organized by NORAG and KICS Europe, Middle East, and Asia Pacific, on how to strengthen evidence-based decision-making with insights from ministries and national institutions. The next two coming up, the dates are not yet defined, but they will be in either October or November 2025. That will introduce our system transformation for effective education reimagination toolkit prepared by UNESCO headquarters, and we will hear about how that is using evidence for policymaking. And then the last session on this in December that is going to share how to translate commitments into action by UNICEF, who will talk about the Foundational Learning Action Tracker. Before I end, you can find more information, all of our concept notes, articles, recordings, and slides about all our series beginning in 2024 at this link. And to learn more about our Global Alliance on the Science of Learning for Education, which is a international community of practice that is bringing together researchers, educators, policymakers to begin to bridge those gaps between these three stakeholder groups. These PowerPoint slides will be shared with you, and you can click on that link to learn more. And finally, I will pass back to Sebla to move to the purpose of this learning series 2025 number 6, which is in collaboration with our UNESCO regional office in Bangkok, and I'm looking forward to hearing what the speakers have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sonia, for this introduction and setting the scene. We'll now move into the next part of our agenda, which will explore why knowledge brokering is important for transforming education systems and accelerating progress towards SDG 4. To lead us through this presentation, I welcome Ms. Vesina Nopak Kuntung, National Professional Officer at UNESCO Regional Office in Bangkok, who has been working closely with countries across Asia Pacific to support evidence-based education planning and regional collaboration. Over to you, Vesina.
We cannot hear you. We cannot hear you, Vasina.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm very pleased to be part of the session, focusing how we can better connect evidence to action to accelerate progress in SDG 4. And thank you for this opportunity to share reflections on the role of knowledge brokering in supporting these efforts. Around the world, and especially in Asia Pacific region, following the Transforming Education Summit held in 2022, countries have made strong commitments to accelerate their actions towards SDG 4. But despite these efforts, we know that progress has been uneven. Learning loss, equity gaps, underfunded education systems remain major challenges. So part of the problem is that evidence often exists, but it doesn't reach the people who make decisions, or it doesn't get translated to actionable policies. So achieving SDG 4 is not just a matter of political will or investment. It's also about ensuring countries have access to the right knowledge at the right time to make informed policy decisions. So why does it matter now? More than ever, knowledge brokering. 8 years into SDG 4 implementation, the Asia Pacific region has made notable progress in terms of access, especially in early childhood and basic education. Over 95% of primary students in most sub-regions in Asia Pacific complete primary education on time. More than 80% of children 1 year before primary entry are enrolled in organized early childhood education. However, we are now at the halfway mark to 2030, and many of the SDG 4 indicators show we're still off track. So access alone is not enough. Learning outcomes remain a major concern in the region. For Southeast Asia, for example, over half of lower secondary students do not reach minimum proficiency in reading and mathematics. As 2030 approaches, countries face multiple competing priorities. Post-COVID learning recovery, digital transformation, inclusion, climate resilience, all within limited budgets. So making smart evidence-based decisions is more important than ever to navigate these challenges effectively. And this is exactly the gap that the Learning Education 2030 Plus Networking Group, us in Asia Pacific, aims to address. Next slide, please. So why is knowledge brokering? Why does knowledge brokering matter for SDG 4? The truth is, SDG 4 is complex. There are 10 global targets, 43 indicators. It's a wide and ambitious agenda, spanning everything from foundational learning, equity to teachers, skills, education for sustainable development. So for education planners, this means facing difficult choices, which means which areas do they prioritize, how to align limited budgets with this ambitious goals. And these decisions aren't just technical, they're political, institutional, so they're often very challenging. The second challenge is fragmentation. Often good evidence exists, but it's scattered across in silos between different departments in the same ministries, or between researchers and policymakers, or between countries tackling similar issues. So as a result, countries may duplicate efforts, outlook existing solutions, or struggle to connect findings with the reality in the ground. This is where knowledge brokering comes in and why it matters so much for SDG 4. It helps bridge the gap between national needs and existing expertise. It translates regional dialogue into actions, and then shared tested solutions instead of reinventing the wheels. Across Asia Pacific region, countries are piloting or scaling innovations. So knowledge brokering allows us to learn from what's already working, adapting it, and avoiding repeating the same mistakes. Next slide, please. Yes, the Asia Pacific region accounts for nearly 2/3 of the global population. So it is one of the most diverse regions in the world. This diversity brings also unique challenges and opportunities for advancing education. UNESCO plays a key leadership role in advancing SDG 4 across Asia Pacific. The regional office in Bangkok, in particular, holds specific mandate to coordinate SDG 4 efforts for the entire Asia Pacific region. And this mandate covers a vast and diverse region consisting of over 46 member states. So through this coordinated approach, UNESCO supports countries in improving education systems and accelerating progress towards inclusive and quality education. Next slide, please. Before we dive into the mechanisms of knowledge brokering in Asia Pacific, I would like to talk a little about Learning and Education 2030 Plus Networking Group, which I'll shortly refer to as the LE 2030 Plus. The LE 2030 Plus is more than just a network. It's the regional coordination mechanism for SDG 4 in Asia Pacific. It is anchored in the SDG 4 coordination architecture. It links the regional and national efforts with the Global Education Corporation mechanism led by the SDG 4 High-Level Steering Committee, which is a global multi-stakeholder consultation and coordination mechanism for education. The LA 2030 Plus is coordinated by UNESCO Bangkok and is co-shared by UNICEF's regional office in East Asia and South Asia. And it brings together UN agencies, development partners, researchers, academias, youth networks, and civil society. Next slide, please. The work of the LA 2030 Plus is guided by 3 key principles. Includes 1, stronger linkages between country, regional, and global levels, I've mentioned earlier. Second is cross-sectoral collaboration, inclusive partnerships, and 3, broad stakeholder engagement, including representatives from youth and student networks as well. The LA 2030 Plus serves as a hub for joint action, peer exchange based on the SDG 4 priorities identified by member states. The LA 2030 Plus also operate with 2 main platforms, like the Asia Pacific Meeting on Education and the Ministerial Meeting that's held every 5 years, which convenes policymakers and partners to set priorities going forward. This mechanism also include thematic sub-working groups on mother tongue education, multilingual education, disability inclusive education, digital transformation, school health and nutrition well-being, and adolescent youth skills development. Next slide, please. UNESCO leads the regional efforts on education and serves as the UN Coordination Office for Asia Pacific. It coordinates the regional platform, or shortly known as the RCP, which brings together more than 35 UN agencies to align the work on the Sustainable Development Goals. The LA 2030 Plus is the SDG 4 coordination group under this RCP platform, and it fosters joint action and cross-cutting issues like education, digital transformation, gender equality, climate resilience. It also provides advice and technical support through the UN resident coordinators and country teams. So situating LA 2030 Plus within this RCP structure ensures that education is part of the broader sustainable development efforts and promotes coordinated UN support at the national level. Next slide, please. One of the core roles of the LA 2030 Plus is to help countries monitor and accelerate progress towards SDG 4. In 2023, at the halfway mark of 2030, Asia Pacific region undertook a regional midterm review, which is a core part of the regional SDG 4 monitoring and helping countries assess progress, learn from its challenges, and prioritize actions. The midterm review gave a comprehensive snapshot of SDG 4 progress in Asia Pacific, spotlighting both achievements and gaps in areas like learning, inclusion, teachers, and financing. It also offers evidence-based recommendations and highlights SDG 4 indicators and challenges that needs acceleration. So many countries in the region also conducted voluntary national reviews using these findings to update and realign their education strategies. In terms of SDG 4 benchmarking exercises, strengthens monitoring by aligning indicators with national policies. It also builds clear links between the national, regional, and global efforts in monitoring. So through these regional benchmarks, countries now have measurable 2025 and 2030 targets, whereas they can track progress more accurately and align national efforts with the region. And translating evidence to action in the lead up to the Asia Pacific Regional Education Ministerial Conference, a series of thematic policy briefs was developed under the LA 2030 Plus framework. These briefs aim to inform high-level ministerial dialogue and outcome of the conference, which resulted in the Bangkok Statement 2022. This outlines key priorities and actions for transforming education in the region with the latest data, evidence, and regional insights. These briefs are designed to be practical and actionable distilling evidence into clear, targeted policy recommendations. These knowledge products are not just also research summaries, they are carefully curated tools designed to help policymakers and education leaders. So many of these briefs are developed with the LA 2030 Plus self-thematic working groups and networks, or co-developed with key partners and members. This collaborative process ensures that the outputs are relevant to the country context, and also grounded in the current challenges. Ministries are able to utilize these briefs to inform the policy dialogue or advocate for resource or allocation. In terms of peer learning exchanges, this is one of the most effective tools for knowledge brokering. LA 2030 Plus initiative is peer-to-peer learning. It's not just about transferring information. It's about creating a space for a mutual exchange where countries can learn directly from one another's successes and setbacks. So through these regional meetings, like the Asia Pacific Meeting Education 2030, that's held within the framework of the LA 2030 Plus, these platforms provides regular opportunities for education policymakers and practitioners to come together and share practical experience, explore what's working, what's not, and co-develop a commitment and agreement to the common challenges for the way forward. In the latest UpMed 6, for example, that was held last year, these peer exchanges have covered a wide range of topics, including advancing equity, inclusion, gender equality, tackling the learning crisis through stronger pedagogies, more relevant high-quality curriculums, building skills for the uncertain future, and equipping learners with the competencies they need for the changing world of work. As mentioned earlier, several sub-thematic working groups also operate under the LE 2030 Plus framework, each focusing on key priority areas in advancing equity, disability, inclusive education, skills employment, multilingual education. And these groups enable peer learning and co-creation of practical tools and solutions. As an example, the working group and school health and nutrition and well-being recently released a new diagnostic tool for assessing mental health and psychosocial support in the education sector. Likewise, the working group on adults and youth skills will be organizing a webinar next week, focusing and exploring how young people, especially girls and marginalized youth, are utilizing AI and digital innovation in order to close the gaps between green and digital skills gaps in the region. What makes these tool and exchanges truly impactful is that they go beyond information sharing. They build trust through open, honest dialogues. They promote mutual learning among peers, country peers. They strengthen regional solidarity by showing countries they are not alone, and they create a momentum for sustained regional collaboration. Making data work through capacity development. Capacity development is one of the core ways that LA 2030 Plus support countries through the organizing of targeted capacity building. These workshops go beyond data collection. They focus on building capacity to use data effectively for policy planning and implementation. These workshops are customized to national priorities, ensuring that support delivered is timely and relevant. The workshop that will be organized by the Disability Inclusive Education Working Group and Lao PDR will focus on how to improve data and planning for learners with disabilities, with the end goal of developing a concrete national work plan. There will also be an upcoming workshop held together, organized with UNESCO Institute of Statistics, that will strengthen national focal points capacity on using international education data tools, setting regional SDG 4 benchmarks, improving MS systems, and measuring learning outcomes through the AMPLE tool. The goal is not just technical training, but to strengthen national capacities to translate evidence into policy. So, for example, countries like Philippines, Cambodia, Laos, PDR have used customized capacity building workshops like these to improve their planning cycles and link SDG 4 targets directly into national education strategies and budgets. Next slide, please. Yes. So another central goal of LA 2030 Plus is to build a culture of learning and knowledge sharing and exchange across the region. A key tool supporting this is the Asia Pacific SDG 4 Knowledge Portal, which is hosted on UNESCO SDG 4 Education 2030 website, and is the region's hub for evidence, tools, and policy resources. If you check out this portal, it will include country profiles and national review reports to help country learn from peers' strategies and progress. There is also thematic policy briefs that I've mentioned earlier, regional reports, many that's co-developed by the working groups or with countries. There are event materials and learning tools from workshops, webinars, and peer exchanges, making all these accessible online. And the portal, I just wanted to point out that it's more than a repository. It's a living platform. It's constantly updated with contributions from across the regions. So users, including ministries, partners, researchers, can use this portal to assess ready-to-use tools and stay informed with regional priorities. So by creating these regional materials, knowledge materials in one place, the portal promotes collaboration, connection, and continuous improvement in the region. Next slide, please. So to sum up this presentation, I would like to point out that advancing SDG 4 requires more than data. It requires turning evidence into actionable, context-specific policy decisions. Knowledge brokering bridges the gap between research and policy and makes evidence usable, relevant, and timely for decision makers. It supports countries to prioritize investments and reforms based on what works. It supports countries to learn from their peers and avoid reinventing the wheel, and then adapt the global and regional insights to the national context. Through this regional platform, like LA 2030 Plus, we can strengthen knowledge exchange, promote peer learning, ensure that evidence drives the progress we all seek. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Vesina, for this great overview. Now let's move to the heart of the session, a panel discussion that takes us from theory to practice and policy through our real-world examples from countries and in the region. To guide us through, I'd like to hand over to Mr. Nini Tang, Education Program Specialist from UNESCO Regional Office in Bangkok. Over to you, Nini.
Thank you, Xavier. Thank you also for my colleague West for sharing their regional experience on presenting about why the knowledge brokering is very important for Asia Pacific region, especially as you mentioned about this is our region is the 2/3 of population that reside there, and also the most diverse region. So and then also you kindly share with how the importance of why, as well as also how at the regional level we are responding to, as you mentioned about, we also through the thematic working group, we had a lot of activity and initiate to really brokering the knowledge and translating information data, and then also systematizing this toward the better use at the regional level as well as country level for the synergetic effect between them also. And also the one of the key point in mentioning about this, the harnessing the UN country regional cooperation framework and harnessing the UN, different UN country thing to engaging with the not only the Ministry of Education but go beyond also. So that give us it's a very informative and insightful presentation, and that give us a more deep dive discussion about what we were going to do for this section also. So before I introducing this section, let me give you a little bit of orientation about how we will proceed. So the purpose of this discussion will be is mainly for us anchoring around what my colleague was mentioned about regional level, that going deep dive into the country level about how the country is using the data and evidence for education policy reform through the knowledge and information from international level, global level, and national level, and across nation also, how it has been coordinated within the ministry or with the beyond the ministry and aligned ministry as well as other relevant stakeholder, and then going through and also how the country has been benefiting for, as we mentioned, we have very systematic mechanism about the LE 2030 plus also. So that's we were going to discuss that. For that, I think we have carefully selected the champion from our three country. I will give you the floor to each one. One from the Mr. Sinton Sinkau from the Laupedia, as well as the Dr. Noor Hashan being SME from India, the Malaysia, as well as Ms. Shadika Wizia from the Sri Lanka as well. So what we're going to do, each panel member, we will give you the kind of 5 to 7 minutes about giving the sort of brief overview on the giving the context for their particular country context about how they has been using or benefiting for this or practicing for the evidence to transform the policy. That's we will give you each 5 minutes. Then after that, we have prepared a sort of the relevant key question to each member country, this panel member country, about how they actually practicing or doing at the country level, more specific context. We will do that. So there will be the kind of the suggested panel discussion. We will do that for key question, and then we will give the floor to our, of course, our wider audience member also. You may pose the question, you may ask the question, you may comment and compliment. That's what we're going to do. So that section will take around 60 minutes. So with having said that, let me also give you the first slot to our colleague from Achan Sinton. So before I starting, let me introduce to him. I'm pretty sure all of you already know the brief bio about the like this. Brief bio about Mr. Sinton and Mr. Dr. Hashan and also the Ms. Shadika also. But let me give you a little bit of complimentary because the Achan Sinton, I call it Mr. Sinton, is I would say he is currently now the Director General of the Department of Education Planning, and he's a long-standing captain of the Laupedia Ministry of Education. He started his career from very beginning, the young professional education planner. I mean, we know each other from very younger age, where we both are junior professor level also. And then then also throughout his career, he really focusing on the education policy planning, and then also not only the SDG for in the previous like the education for as well, and then now he leading the current education sector plan of the Lao national education sector plan for Minister of Education, Sports and Science as well. He is a key instrumental for this leading the very important work. So I think he has a lot to share. But Ajahn, you have 5 minutes to start with that. So over to you, Ajahn. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nini. Good afternoon, everyone. Good morning. Maybe somewhere in the world. My name is Sitong Sikau, the Acting Director General of the Department of Planning, Minister of Education, as Nini already mentioned that. First of all, I would like to thank UNESCO for inviting me to join this webinar. So to begin with the topic, I would like to share with you about the education situation in Laos. As we have the effect from the COVID pandemic, at the moment education in Laos is facing some challenges. So like a low learning outcome in primary education, and decreasing enrollment and high dropout in secondary education, the shortage of teacher and the share of education budget is lower than the international benchmark. So the priority for Laos at the moment is how to develop the strategy to address or to improve the foundation learning, and also to alleviate the demand side constraint to education access by reducing the cost of education and training for poor and disadvantaged children, and also to ensure sufficient and equitable allocation of teachers according to the need, especially at the primary education level, and also to improve equitable provision of education and training through the development and implementing of targeted program and financing mechanism, and also to improve the quality and relevance at the post-basic education. So in order to address these challenges, the Ministry of Education and together with the development partner, we have developed quite several of tools and conducted a different study to seek for the evidence to inform the policy development in Laos. For example, we have the EMIS system that we essentially, critical tool for us to use the data from EMIS to inform our policy development. And the Ministry of Education also using the result of the student learning assessment. And for example, from the CPLM, from the ASLO in grade 5, grade 9, to inform the curriculum development and the revision. And also the Ministry of Education using the evidence and or finding and recommendation from the study on teacher development, the school dropout studies, the study on positive deviant school, and national survey. It's like the social indicator survey to develop the policy strategy to prioritize the improvement of the foundation learning. And a part of using the evidence development to develop the education policy in Laos, we have actively participate in the regional SDG 4 progress. We have participated in series of the Asia Pacific, the Asia Pacific education meeting is we call the APMEC 4, 5, and 6 that have in Bangkok in 2018, 19, and 24, which focus on different topics. And in the 2023, we have conducted the midterm review of education sector plan, and also this review assess the progress on the sector plan as well as SDG 4 target, including the free primary and secondary education, TVET access, teacher quality, and education for sustainable development, something like that. So, and Lao PDR also participate in the regional benchmark initiative, setting national target for key SDG 4 indicators, such as the completion rate, learning outcome, and teacher qualification, something like that. For the role of Lao in the LE 2030 plus, so Lao has contributed several of the 7 thematic working group, which focus on the area like the progress monitoring, policy support, and peer learning. Has also taken part in the different regional webinar and workshop that showcase the innovation and challenges in education system, allowing for mutual learning with the peer across Asia Pacific. So therefore, in the context of the capacity and resource limitation, so we have some key challenges. For example, how to nationally scale up the pilot that demonstrate success, and also how to prioritize strategy that will be most effective, and how to cut the established or strategy program that are less effective and that are inefficient. And finally, the transformation education involves a tough decision, especially around ending long-standing but inefficient practice through regional dialogue and collaboration. Yeah, so this is something that I would like to share with you, but we have explain more when we have the discussion session for this. Thank you very much for your.
Thank you, Dr. Santong, for sharing I think they sharing the challenge issue for you are facing, Lao PDI face about education development process, as well as meeting the SDG 4 and transforming education system, and also now you are sharing about how you harness and exploiting the different sources about the EMIS, how to service study, and then also not only the national level but also regional level initiative. You have actively engaged engage and participate, and also the harnessing and also the expanding this information to address this. But as you correctly mentioned in the last part of your discussion, also, the challenge still remain, and we need to learn, and we need to more forward looking as a, the about scaling up, and then also the prioritization, and balancing, particularly in the resource scarce situation, looking for how to balance. Of course, we want further discuss. Thank you very much for your kick or the initiate and start discussion as well. I will come back to you later, Mr. Sinto. Now, let me give the floor to another colleague, Dr. Noor Haishan bin Ismail. Dr. Ismail, I think we would like to hear from you also. So before I give you the floor, let me introduce to you, adding a little bit of compliment from there also. Dr. Ismail is the now head of the education planning in he is a long, they have a long section, but we call it the International Education Unit, Education Planning and Research Division there. So, and then Dr. SML has been quite a long experience on the international agency collaboration and then also global education issues. So we would like to hear from you how you are looking at them, also the benefiting from global the issue, and also in the Malaysia context how you'll be addressing it. And also on top of that, also he is the current national SDG 4 coordinator. As you may see that our elite 2030 regional network, each country we have a national SDG 4 coordinator who is really over the following up and also making sure the regional and also national our SDG for well aligned and connected, etc. So he also is serving as the national SDG 4 coordinator for Malaysia as well. So welcome, Mr. SML, and I would like to give you the floor. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Nyi. Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. So, first of all, I would like to thank UNESCO Bangkok for the opportunity for Malaysia to share what we have learned, especially through series of meetings and regional meetings, and also series of publications by UNESCO's, all about evidence and evidence-based, data that we have actually utilized to look back into what we worked with our policy planning. So in terms of, I see that the development of from the beginning of SDGs in 2015 to right now, with the establishment of LE 2030 plus, it is actually very commendable, and we have actually utilized this platform to create some policy sharing exercise so that we can translate that evidence into action. So this is what Malaysia would like to share, what we have utilized this platform. However, to start off, we would like to share a bit of the evidence base that look at into the areas that give us a bit of challenge in achieving the SDGs, especially the national learning challenges. For Malaysia, we are looking at number one, looking at PISA and TIMSS scoring. We look at the achievement in the international benchmarking, where we still have gapped in the with other peers in the OECD and ASEAN countries. And secondly, when we look at the socioeconomic factor, we are also looking at students from lower socioeconomic backgrounds, where this group of students are still lag behind. But however, even though this data and evidence are persistent, but however, we do make some good progress in terms of looking at their learning. In terms of foundational skills, Yinyi and everyone, we still need to catch up with basic literacy and numeracy, and I think this is a global issue that everyone is facing, especially for lower primary students. And one of the areas that we also look into and focus on is STEM and TVET education, where there's still gap in participation and achievement in these two areas. Where in Malaysia, we look at the long-term remediation efforts. When addressing all these challenges, what we are looking at is that Ministry of Education implements education reform since last year to expedite the achievement of all these indicators for SDGs and the challenges that we face based on the evidence that we had from series of discussions and policy dialogues. So the MOE has identified several case for change that involve rapid actions to drive the desired changes. And some of the identified case for change areas includes number one, we are looking at pupils who experience learning loss, where mitigations are done through curriculum alignment. And number two, we are looking at issues in the uniformity of preschool education quality among government agencies and other preschool education providers. So this is to ensure that quality in preschool education is monitored continuously using the National Preschool Quality Standard 2.0 assessment tool. So apart from that, to inspire pupil interest in STEM, we also, especially for the cohort of upper secondary level, we strengthened the STEM education through strategic partnership. For example, we have engagement with Petronas Foundation. Next, when we look at access to TVET fields for pupils in the government school, we address this by strengthening the TVET achievement at the national and global level by highlighting those achievements to motivate others. For example, we have Nibong Tobal Vocational College, where they won a gold award in the International Invention, Innovation and Design competition last year. Next, we are also looking at, of course, addressing people's language literacy skills that we mitigated by promoting language proficiency through peer mentoring and digital platform. For example, we have in Bahasa, we call it Sahabat Bahasa or Language Friends program. We also have integrated micro learning program with robust virtual experience or improve. And last but not least, we look at digital competency scores that evidently show some issues that we strengthen this by initiative under the digital education policies we developed a couple of years ago to advance digital literacy with interactive reading system called Nilam. So I think this is some brief scenario and that we can share that what Malaysia have done using the evidence that we get from the various platform at the global and regional level to look into our policy initiatives. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Ismail, for sharing your Malaysian experience also. Although, of course, the Malaysia heading gradually toward the developing country, you still have an existing issue as well as emerging issue, or try to address that also. But we learned is that you address in a diverse manner, in a comprehensive way, saying that also, because there's a difference, the issue like, learning foundational learning towards stance, and even you are addressing emerging topic or not. I don't want to say issue like digital, I mean, the competency, and even right now maybe we are now open to the new chapter of the AI. But you are addressing and harnessing, and also try to harnessing from I heard from you are bringing out different multi-stakeholder also. That like I heard the private sector, Petronas, and also different foundation, even the peer learning. So it's you are utilizing all the possible way, I mean, diverse and comprehensive way to address this. So surely we will hear more for later from the next discussion as well. And I will come to you with a very specific question to address, and also learn from Malaysia experience also. Now, lastly, also for among our three speakers, and I would like to also invite Ms. Shadika, the watch from the Sri Lanka as well. Again, also I know you have already read through the curriculum vitae or CV, but also I would like to add a little bit more. Like Ms. Shadika is the Deputy Director of the Education in the Ministry of Education, Higher Education, Vocational Technical Education, but he's particularly in the section, I understand that, so because we're knowing each other and communicating from the SDG4 also, and then also she has a lot of experience on national coordination with SDG4 with a strong emphasis on the education policy and planning. This is normally the profile, and we work working together. I think how work particularly focusing on vocational technical education. So we would like to hear more and senior secondary education and learning outcome also. And then she working together for various the government, ministry, industry partner, and organization, civil society. So we also would like to hear from her experience in the Sri Lanka context about how the country has been really coordinating and synergizing with other stakeholders from regional to country level for achieving the SDG goal also. And it is a good example for island country for with the Pacific, our colleague, and some of them may be attending to be also the learn and also the to share also. So Ms. Charika, over to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Shini, and thank you to UNESCO Bangkok. I would like to start by saying Ayubowan and Vanakkam. So Sri Lanka is right now going through a reforms process. We're reforming the education system. And as opposed to a lot of countries in the region, Sri Lanka has had very high enrollment rates, very high completion rates. Our retention is good, our out-of-school rates are low. And we have a very strong co-curricular activities framework. We have had free education for decades now, and we have a good framework to support students to retain in education. So even during the COVID pandemic and the socioeconomic crisis that followed, students did retain in the education system and continued learning. And we have the annual school census, which gives us a good context annually as to what we need to do. So in the reform process, through our learnings of the midterm review process, reforms are focusing on continuing free education and equal access, and maybe increasing the relevance to human development and employment, increasing accessibility for all, and focusing on sustainability and innovation, and focusing on lifelong learning. So what did the evidence show of our learnings and our studies in the last few years, especially in the SDG 4 framework? One was that we need to focus more on learning outcomes as opposed to examinations. And we should address the gender gaps. In Sri Lanka, it's very different because girls perform better and complete education more than boys. However, in terms of inclusive education, we need to increase the participation of boys, participation of girls in STEM education, and focus on students with disabilities and several vulnerable groups. So another area that evidence showed that we need to focus on was, as my colleague before me mentioned, to standardize pre-primary education. In addition to synchronizing multiple programs and activities to a single framework in terms of education for sustainable development. So these were some things that we focused on. And the reforms also address learning outcomes, competencies and skills, and providing multiple flexible pathways, recognizing that each child is different, and remove structural barriers to continue education and remove limitations in terms of senior secondary education. So for example, if you pick a science-based stream, now with the reforms, you will also be able to learn some aspects of humanities education. So these are some of the things that we're looking at in terms of increasing opportunities and access for students. So in terms of knowledge brokering, who do we learn from? From everyone, from children to teachers to the policymakers and planners in the region and the globe as well. So in terms of what we learned from the region, our peer learning experience across these years, especially I want to highlight some of the technical knowledge and best practices that we learned from Japan and South Korea on inclusive education, on Japan and Bangladesh, on non-formal education in terms of best practices, and they've been supporting us a lot. And knowledge has been shared among these countries. On vocational training, especially our Tibet sector, had a lot to learn from the Australian system, and a continuous dialogue and support system has been going on for years now. And we're also looking to the next few years to learn on learning outcomes and to conduct minimum proficiency level assessments, to continue and develop the green education system, especially in terms of green schools. Maybe from India, and UNESCO has been instrumental in getting us forward in this aspect. And especially, as some of my colleagues mentioned earlier, on electronic integration and on digitization. That is something that we are looking at on what are the best practices are, what can we learn from the other countries, and on the integration of data from the private sector. So from preschools to educational institutes to higher educational institutes. So one of the examples that maybe we'll get a chance to elaborate later is how we've, at a local level, leveraged knowledge and skills of different sectors beyond the education sector on vocational education to design a system that bridges the research practice divide, that continuously develops and grows and is dynamic and it creates an evidence ecosystem, and how we build networks and break silos, addressing complex challenges and finding collaborative solutions, which has led to the minimization of duplications, which has led to efficient budgeting, leads to better resource sharing, strengthening capacities. And actually, in this process, in this example that I'm bringing out now, we saw different SDG outcomes and how they are linked together and how they can holistically help us reach the SDG 4 agenda. In terms of the regional learnings, we had a recent learning assessment systems, administrative data, survey population, expenditure, and review monitoring by the UNESCO Institute for Statistics, which shared some of the best practices around the region and actually made us understand on where we stand as a country and what we need to develop. At a local level, we also have started a series of programs for educational professionals aiming the next planning cycle uh, to create technically sound planners who work on evidence and maybe to understand where each planner falls in a larger educational landscape and the SDG framework. So in Sri Lanka, sustainability has been a core concept for centuries. So maybe other countries in the region may have the potential to learn from our experience as well, and how we've retained students in education through vocational education and other support systems. And we do have resources to help other countries. Especially, I want to highlight the UNESCO supported center, the South Asian Center for Speech Development. So this is the context and the environment in which we work and how we've worked in a local and regional context to share experience and knowledge and to conduct this knowledge brokering. So maybe Nini, later we'll get to elaborate further. But for now, that is it from me, and hope to have an interesting dialogue.
Thank you very much for Ms. Sharika for sharing your Sri Lanka country experience also. I know we know that also that we are very happy to learn that with a solid foundation you already have it from Sri Lanka, actually you are advancing towards, and this, given the experience, you are advancing to one also overarching and addressing other like a lifelong, you're going to a lifelong learning, and also try to see the, for the like a green education and all the content parts. So that's the way which you would like to address. And also, I mean, one key what I really like is that, you're learning from everyone. So through and a lot of good experience, you have inspired and we have also sharing, but at the same time also you are distilling the experience on country level also, then you're within your is a very interesting also. And also one important key highlight also which I would like to give it I highlight before we go to the deep down is that now, I mean, the way of you thinking and coordinating is education is not a silo, it's a foundation, and then through towards, and then having a different multi-sector, and then also addressing, as you mentioned, a holistic perspective of achieving SDG, not that we have to achieve SDG 4 alone, and in order to achieve SDG 4, where we contribute to our other SDG, but also achievement of other SDG, also they contribute and share to other achieving SDG 4. This is a kind of interesting message, I would say, which we should also look at around this, the topic within the topic for knowledge exchange as well. With this, I think we have it now 3 p.m. So let us start with the particular question, but I would like to highlight to our panel member also. You don't need to answer the question and then directly also, as Ms. Shadika, you mentioned about some of the good experience you would like to head and compliment, and also you would like to highlight, please do so also. So let me now address the first with the Achan Sintong also. For my first question will be the kind of use of evidence for education reform also. So here that's also the here the Laopedia has actively contributed in the regional process like SDG midterm review, and we are very much appreciate that you actively engage, and also country itself prepare the national report and also benchmarking also. How has you used for data and evidence at the national level contribute to this effort, and how they have turned support to the policy development in Laopedia as well, Jan? Because you already alluded you are using the different data sources, etc. But maybe you can little bit more on that specific perspective.
Yes, thank you, Nini, for your question. Yeah, as I said, that the evidence is very important for policy development. For example, in Laos, that we have the data, we use the data from image to inform the DP to develop the support to target to the district with the low learning outcome or low enrollment or the high dropout. This is something that, for example, the World Bank project that focus on now we have the 40 district out of the 184 district. With the 40 district, we use the data for image to identify this is the poor district that the development partner should focus on. So this is one of the example. And then also we have the evidence from the study, the ASLO or the CPLM, that the low learning outcome is among the non-Lao speaker that we call. So this is also the example of the data that we use to develop what we call the Lao spoken program. So we develop the curriculum and the textbook and the teacher material to address the children with low learning outcome, especially for the non-Lao speaker that we call that the ethnic, the minority, something like that. And also in the 23 we conduct the joint sector review mission with the development partner, focusing on the low learning outcome as well and so forth, to also to find out the reason why the enrollment is decreasing and how the local level address the shortage of the teacher. And the finding from this the joint sector we mentioned is to inform the government to develop the partnership compact that we apply for the fund from GP. So this is very important for us. So meaning that the evidence from different studies, this is something that we need to base on when we develop the project document or to develop the sector plan, something like this. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Sinton. Thank you very much for giving a concrete example of, using EMIS, like a regional study and learning assessment, CPLN, also the joint sector review. And then you try to really identify the specific issue like the non-laws, the group, which are very the disadvantaged group, out of school children, how to address this, and also teacher shortage. I know that one of the key issue in your country also teacher shortage, how to address that. Come up with very specific evidence and linkage with specific. And a very interesting thing is these the data and policy link and action link to what also use it for the mobilization of the fund also. This is a very smart way to do that also. And this is a very convincing way to do that. So thank you very much for sharing the very concrete example also. Now let us if time permit, I will come back to you, Mr. Sinto. One of the things which I would like to also do specifically would like to ask to the Mr. Dr. Ismail is since you are your department is also the education planning and research division, the specific question will be in this our discussion context. What are the challenge and have you faced in translating research or evidence into the actionable policy also? Because I mean, in the previous discussion, you alluded there are a lot of initiated, particularly in the come out. But and then also you said that there's an existing you mentioned how will you address this for translating this research finding? I mean, particularly, of course, you have very good EMIS and all that, but particular research finding toward the actionable policy for scaling up.
Yeah, thank you Yi, for that question. I think we all agree that the empirical data really help to identify gaps when we talk about foundational learning deficit, when we talk about the achievement disparities among our learners. And the monitoring progress is also looking at the current data that we collect. So for Malaysia's case, we always consistently look at our performance basically at the local level and also at the global level. When we look at SDG 4 scorecard, for example, by UNESCO
Yep.
UIS, and also the SDG 4 data digest to the 2021 recently, that we have embarked on the radical effort to actually review the benchmarks values for SDG 4 for 2025 this year and also 2030 to make sure that we accelerate and we think of the current policies and what would be the policy next step.
Yep.
To achieve. So based on that, using that data and also the benchmark values, we set a small number of priority policy areas. We know that certain indicators have achieved are on track, and somehow or other there are still pockets of priorities that need to be focused on. So that's why we thought we need to look at small priority policy areas that link to the achievement SDG 4. So based on that, we have come up with 7 indicators and 19 benchmark values
Yeah.
to look at 5 priority policy areas. Number 1, we look at basic education, where this is where we look at foundational learning, we look at the access to learning, preschools, and number 2, we look at preschools. So a lot of issues. I think it is similar to Sri Lanka when we need to coordinate the different providers of the preschool education. And we also need to look at the policy areas in teachers education, capacity building, curriculum training, as well as number 4, we look at expenditure. I think Malaysia is very lucky when education sector has received the biggest part of the education of the budget for the national budget. So we can actually look into the planning on the expenditure for education more thoroughly. And the policy areas number 5 is on equity. So I think this also look at different groups of learners that we cannot put aside, even though majority of our learners are in the mainstream, but we cannot forget about the other pockets of learners as well. So I think I stop right now.
Thank you.
I may interject later.
Sure,
Thank
sure.
you, Yeye.
Thank you, Dr. Asama. First of all, I would say that I would like to congratulate the Malaysian governments and citizens of Malaysia for allocating the biggest budget. I know that you have a we look through the education expenditure and education budget for government. Your country always come out one of the top. So, that is which we should share and inform to other member states to inspire as well. And also, thank you very much for sharing your Malaysia experience also from the research. I fully agree that you came up with the different the finding toward a very specific policy area, I would say, rather than addressing specific policy area, particularly addressing like the different policy, right, the preschool teacher, expenditure, and equity issues. So these are the very interesting thing also. That is a way the particularly key research finding were really had to specific and narrowing down and pinpointing one specific issue and linkage with all the stakeholder to really benefit and also translate to the action. Thank you, Dr. Asama. So now, Ms. Sharika, over to you. Now, my question is, again, also, I really would like to interested to learn from your sharing your experience on how interconnected the linkage with the other sector, and also they try to achieving and supporting SDG 4 with the also achieving overall holistic SDG 4. So over to you. We would like to hear more from you from that experience, please, Ms. Sharika.
Thank you, Nini. So I would just directly go into the particular example that I was talking about. Yes. So as I mentioned, when we looked at where we were in terms of SDG 4, some of the things that we wanted to emphasize on, or some of the concerns were, as I mentioned,
Yeah.
are senior secondary completion rates. So at junior secondary completion, we're around 93, 92. And then when it comes to senior secondary, we saw a decline in it. It was around 65 to 70, but it was a decline. And then within that, boys' completion rates had a severe fall, and then girls increased. Within this, we saw a lot of students from the vulnerable populations not completing senior secondary education. And senior secondary education in Sri Lanka, we saw that it actually helps students who are more into knowledge-based learning as opposed to skills-based learning. So in this context, what we did as a particular policy proposal or reform is to bring vocational education within the general education framework. So what I mean by is Sri Lanka has had a good TVET system.
Okay.
However, the TVET system has been working separately. So it is not within the general education system. Right now, the Ministry of Education has the vocational education division as well. However, vocational education is conducted by multiple agencies, multiple ministries, and multiple sectors. So, for example, the tourism sector with the tourism ministry, the industries sector with the industries ministry, the agriculture sector with the agriculture ministry, the arts and crafts with the industries ministry again. So these were multiple sectors working on multiple SDGs, trying to create awareness among students, getting students into this knowledge and the awareness on SDGs, holistically trying to, promote local food production, local agriculture, local tourism, environmental tourism. So all of these aspects they were looking into. So what we saw this was an opportunity to get them all together into a holistic program. So bringing vocational education into the general education system, what we did was we initiated with 5 ministries and now it has gone up to 8. And by the end of the year, we hope to go up to 12 ministries and linked multiple vocational training providers and industry partners into senior secondary education. And within the senior secondary education structure, created a 1-year learning process where students go into these industries and go into these vocational training institutes and learn from them. And within the general education system, we gave them an opportunity to get a vocational education qualification as well. So not as a separate system, but within the general education system itself. So in school level, students got to do projects and programs that linked multiple SDGs. So for example, a particular area that students focused on was on social cohesion and on partnership building. With that, and SDG 4 and based on agriculture. So they linked all these three together to create a project, which in turn created awareness within the community while also empowering students and adults in the community as to how they can self-sustain. So in this, I would like to emphasize another point, which is we talk about users and researchers and producers of data. However, in this, we understood that as users, when we do the research ourselves, there is new knowledge created. When researchers actually use this data to maybe do small things that in their capacity, that creates new knowledge, which in turn makes a dynamic and growing system. It strengthens the ecosystem, it builds networks, and it breaks silos. So some of the challenges that we never anticipated was the economic crisis, the COVID crisis, and then with our education program that we've created, being highly dependent on industries and on the economic system, on how we face such a challenge. Now, what are the skills that students need to learn to face these kinds of challenge? AI and technology, how do transversal skills play a part? How can they turn from one skill to the other? So these are some of the learnings that we had because we had this partnership with multiple agencies. So an agency who has a stronghold on something today might not have the same strength tomorrow when a new crisis emerges. But when we have these partnerships and knowledge is shared among agencies, there's someone who can tackle it. So in this way, we were able to face unforeseen challenges and we were able to understand what the new challenges of the education system are, and we were able to do it because of these partnerships with multiple agencies and this knowledge sharing between multiple agencies and multiple sectors within the country. So that is what I want to focus on. If there are any questions on that or other programs that we did, I know that the discussion will be ongoing.
Thank you, Sharika. It is a very interesting and very innovative idea or thought what you have. First of all, I'm really impressed that, how your country, particularly Ministry of Education, had dissected all the issue challenge from, you see the kind of the multitude of the, multi-angle of this, lower secondary, things are going well, probably upper secondary, but, among even this particular issue, when you begin try to dissect, different picture has come out also. That's a very interesting, and also your innovative approach of the, within the system or education, you try to link with the education, and then also other industry, other ministry, and also try to, I would say that, it's a power of collective and collaborated effort. So not only addressing current issue and challenge, you also prepare and foreseeing that this emerging issue challenge, or try to see that with the also, again, there's a collective power of this collective. So, that you have a kind of magnitude and skill to really respond to make it a really impact. So it is a very interesting. I'm pretty sure we can keep talking and discussing this very interesting topic, but I think given the less, I think we don't have much time to let, so let us give the floor to our audience. So I'm sure they might have a lot of questions, but let me start with the one step at a time. Maybe I would like to open one or two questions from the audience or participant would like to address particularly to the one of this panel member. So questions are, or also comments are very much welcome. So Job, how can we, you are now opening the speaker to all the audience or the participants?
Our participants could use the raise hand function, and
Raise
we
hand.
would allow them to,
Sure, very good.
to talk.
I
or
saw
they could use the Q&A.
Dr.
Dr.
Farhana,
Farhan.
yes. Farhan, yes.
Okay. Dr. Farhana?
Good morning.
Yep.
Am I audible?
Yes. Yeah.
Right,
Loud and clear.
It was very insightful and wonderful discussion. Thank you so much for this platform. And it's a pleasure to listen that UNESCO is providing a platform, and we are able to get these insights, whatever is going on in different countries. I've asked a question that I also wanted to contribute, like my thesis was on transversal competencies, PhD thesis, and I wanted to know how could I collaborate and how could I contribute to SDG 4. So I asked this question, and I wanted to appreciate and ask how could I contribute. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Farhana. Thank you very much. We take initiative and we appreciate your willingness to contribute for this, particularly your thesis area. We are very much appreciate. But it will be tremendously helpful, and also we have a kind of knowledge portal which we compile and collect the different evidence and different and the scholar to address these kind of issues. So we will further contact to you for more detailed discussion how you could share and you also contribute to for our elite and the liberal knowledge portal also. So thank you very much. We appreciate that. With this, I would like to welcome thank you very much. I would like to welcome another the audience from to raise the question also to our panel member. Thank you very much. Is there any questions or comment from the audience or participants? You can raise the hand, and Maria Claude, please, over to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the invitation and for the very insightful presentations from the Asia Pacific region. So as I wrote, I used to represent the NGO UNESCO Liaison Committee I was the chair and also member, elected member. And there used to be the CCNGO Education 2030, collective consultation of NGOs to Education 2030, that was represented to the former steering committee for SDG 4, now the Global Education Mechanism. So I wanted to know if it is still represented, because the platform is no longer accessible. And when I asked to UNESCO, they don't know. So I would like to know if you still are a partner with the CCNGO and we can still access. And thank you also for giving the link to SDG 4 for the Asia Pacific. And I guess it exists also for Europe, for example, because I'm from Europe.
Oh, okay.
International level. Thank you very much. And I used to work a lot with Aspar Bae and also Clade. So these are my colleagues. I don't know if they are there, but I salute them and thank you. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much, Ms. Marina. I would say that, you know, that of course, the CSO, civil society organization, and they are a very important partner of our SDG working. So since we are working together as, I think for your specific question, we take note of that. And then I'm pretty sure, you know, the various, the CSO at the international level, regional level, and national level, they are active, engaging member of the Achieving SDG 4. Even our Elite 2030 Plus network, you know, as here somebody mentioned about SPID, they are the regional, the CSO, which are very actively engaged and working together hand to hand with this. So I'm pretty sure, but the first specific question, whether it is still in the member, whether accessible, please allow me. We take note of, we have your information, we take note of your question, and we will further address to our relevant colleague at the headquarters, and we will ensure they respond to you. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
My pleasure. Also, we are very happy to see the participants from Europeans are also joining to learn our Asia Pacific experience. Thank you, Marina Claude. Yeah.
Thank you.
So now we have almost 3:30. Last not the least, I would like to welcome the last questions, if people may have it, before I pass it to Sabia also. Is there any last question or comment from our participants? If not, I'm sure we will have it, you know, a chain and dialogue through the, you know, not only this is a kind of the events which we all together, but we have using technology, and we have similar, like my colleague Sonia mentioned, there will be future series are coming. So I'm sure we will have another opportunity to meet you again also. Having said that, as a moderator, I really would like to thank our panel member, and then you are the champion of the SDG in this region, and we've been knowing each other for quite a long time, for working together for achieving the SDG 4 at the regional level. I'm sure you're doing great job in country level. So once again, I really sincerely would like to thank Achan Sinthon, and then Dr. SML, and then Shadika. My great pleasure to have a section and talking with you also. So once again, thank you very much. And then with this, Xavier, over to you.
Thank you,
Thank you very much, Nini. And I would like to echo what you said, and I would like to thank all of our panelists for this great intervention, and thank you as well for this great moderation. To close, I now invite Marina Patrier, Deputy Director and Chief of the Education Section at UNESCO Bangkok, to share some final reflections. Please, Marina.
Thank you so much. It's great to see some familiar faces on the screen. On behalf of the UNESCO Regional Office in Bangkok, I like to join also both of you to address huge thanks to all our speakers, our panelists, participants for your time today, valuable insights, meaningful contribution. A special thank as well to the Education 2030 team at headquarters for this fruitful collaboration. It's really so important as we move forward with acceleration of SDG 4 to have this exchange, you know, at global level, at regional level, sub-regional level. So we really look forward to working and exchanging with all of you together again in the near future. And as we come to a close of today's webinar, I'd like to reflect on 3 key themes that have emerged. First one, the power of collaboration. Second one, the vital role of knowledge brokering. And third, the impact of peer learning in driving progress on SDG 4. So the first one, the spirit of collaboration actually is one of the Asia-Pacific greatest strengths. And in today's complex educational landscape, data and evidence are critical in shaping effective and equitable policy. And in this context, the Learning and Education 2030 Plus Networking Group, what you know as the LNE 2030 Plus, really plays a key role in connecting the evidence to policy decision. It brings together a diverse range of stakeholders to foster inclusive dialogue, share learning and joint action. So this is the first thing, the spirit of collaboration, very important. Second, in this session, we have also learned compelling example on how knowledge brokering helps turn insight into action, enhancing the relevance, the equity, and impact of education system. Ultimately, this demonstrates how our regional collaboration is translating into tangible policy action on the ground. For instance, today we have learned how Lao PDR is using disaggregated EMIS data to equitably allocate resources to disadvantaged districts. We also heard how Sri Lanka is integrating vocational education into general education through peer learning and stakeholder engagement, and many other examples from Asia Pacific. So thanks again for that. And the third aspect is really the peer learning. And as you know, under the LNE 2030 Plus, we have many thematic working groups, and peer learning through this thematic group is really driving real change, demonstrating how focused collaboration and shared expertise can lead to meaningful and on-the-ground improvements in the education system. So overall, today's discussion is another reminder for all of us how LNE 2030 Plus contribute to the broader SDG 4 regional agenda and dialogue. And as we look ahead together, let us continue to use these platforms. This is not just to share knowledge, but actually to co-create solution, deepen partnership, and ultimately amplify the impact of our collective effort. So accelerating our action towards SDG 4 is no small task, but through our joint efforts under LNE 2030 Plus, we are better equipped to drive progress. So let us keep the momentum as we go forward and we come closer to 2030. And many thanks to everyone again for all your invaluable contribution today. Thank you so much. Over to you.
Thank you very much for these reflections, Marina, and thank you again for everyone joining us and contributing to today's dialogue. As a quick reminder, we'll be sharing all the presentations, background materials, and recording of the session with you after this webinar. And please stay tuned for the next webinars coming up on the Learning Series website. And wishing you all a great day, afternoon. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much.